Hello, everyone. I'm delighted to be with you. Here it is the morning in the US, and it's always a miracle to be able to communicate across the expanse of our beautiful planet with people on the other side of the world who are engaged in a common purpose to create a more peaceful world. I'm very delighted to join you today, and I'll be speaking to you about some ideas that I wanted to share that I hope will be important to you. And in the spirit of experimenting, I'm interested in sharing these ideas with you and hearing what ideas you find most valuable and important as you are in the process of becoming passionate peace-building photographers. Omar has asked me just to spend a couple of minutes now reflecting on perhaps a video that you had watched that was focusing on conflict. And maybe we'll just begin by asking you to reflect on what you saw and learned, and perhaps maybe sharing through the chat what your reflection is from that learning and what you found most meaningful to you and most applicable and useful as a peace photographer. So we will look at the chat and see what people are thinking. And please feel free to chat in.
Also, some people are outside. If you can't chat, also can they also get unmute and speak verbally?
That would be even better.
Who
would like to unmute? Who would like to unmute and actually share a reflection from the information on conflict that you found in the video, and what you found important, or an idea that you thought was useful or meaningful? Who will go first? Just unmute and speak clearly, and you might say your name again so I can interact with you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello, my name is Ranjit.
Yes.
And the things I got from the video is that win-win situation for both the parties. And dialogue. I think these two important things that caught my attention to resolve any conflict.
Okay. Ranjit, thank you very much for getting this exchange going. And yes, that is, of course, both the end, hopefully, of peaceful response to conflict, and the method by which both the win-win outcome and the dialogue as a method for that. You know, in my work, we say that first, we hope that people have dialogue. Without dialogue, there's only a monologue.
Yeah.
And after monologue, there is only one other thing that happens, and people pick up a log and engage in violence. So it's very important to choose dialogue over monologue or picking up a log to use as a weapon for violence. Thank you, Ranjit.
Yes.
Who else has a comment to share? Oh, yes, Prapti.
For me, I think the basis where he starts the video, like his speech, like when he differentiate violence and conflict, I think for me that was the hitting point, because sometimes all of these words are very interchangeably used, and I think all of so this actually helped me, recognize, some like differences between conflict and violence, and also the fact that how conflict, we should be prepared to deal with conflict so that it does not reach to the violence. So I think for me, just the differentiation like was very insightful.
Yes. We experience, thank you, Prapti. We experience, you're so right, we experience conflict always, every day. I'm sure some of you have already had some experience with some conflict today, hopefully not a major conflict. And we like to, of course, say that conflict is an inevitable experience. It is an inevitable experience in life. And we only choose to make it violent in how we react or respond to it. But if we see conflict as a normal human experience, then we're able to understand it better and not be in a reactionary defensive mode in our response. Thank you for that. That's very insightful. Another comment?
Just couple of people have just joined. I wanted to mention that we are just debriefing and talking about the assignment that was shared with you about conflict and peace. So Deepak and Vikash, who guys joined late, just wanted to give you an update.
Thank you. I am in a not so good signal, so I'm video off.
We hear you, Deepak.
Thank you.
A comment?
Hello, sir. Lakshmi this side.
Hello, Lakshmi.
Like, it's not related to your video, but like I have a thought on all those things, conflicts and peace. Like
Please.
it is in like conflict is something which is inside our head only. Like when I saw my community, my area, to identify what kind of conflict can be arise from my community. So then I thought it is just in my mind. It's not something which is existing. It's just in my mind. And and if I talk about peacefulness, positivity, so all those stuff, I am always relating all those things, in like even the negative things too. I'm always relating all those stuff with the positivity and peacefulness. Then I realized the conflict is just in my mind. So I just want to say in this session. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that. It's important that conflict can occur both between people or within oneself sometimes, within the thoughts that we have. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, Deepan?
Vipin and Deepak, if, yeah, anything, Deepak.
Another thought or idea?
In fact,
Shall we, Omar?
yeah, just I think also, what Lakshmi was also saying, for a larger period of time, I think it also was striking my mind at many layers how conflict runs first from individual to institutional to societal lines, but it always starts from one brain, one mind, one person. So I think, and I like what Deepak had written in the chat box. So I would want Deepak to respond because Paul is not in the WhatsApp group. Deepak, I would want you to maybe just unmute and express your understanding that you had after watching the video.
Oh, we are speaking about the same video. I'm sorry. I thought we were discussing something else. I'm late. So sorry. Yeah. So I found this video extremely insightful explanation or description about conflict and peace. One important thing I noticed was which I had not read or seen any time before. Was conflict can be induced by cultural practices as well. So I think being secluded in our own cultures, our own country, we think that our culture is great and that can no way be a reason for it. And when you see, I mean, obviously there are undercurrents of conflict arising from the culture, but you never, I mean, I never very clearly saw that as a reason. And then kind of a very studied and established reason for as a source of conflict. That was very I could relate to that very much.
Thank you, Deepak. Yes, I think culture, and many times the way we view, as said earlier, Prapti was saying, that we have different attitudes or ways that we have learned about conflict and being negative, and conflict means something negative, and it's always associated with violence. And sometimes our cultural context, our cultural world can hold these ideas. I always say here in the United States, unfortunately, very sadly, we are always being educated by our culture into violence. And we have slowly, unconsciously drifted into a culture that tolerates violence, that is comfortable with violence, is numb to violence, and has difficulty responding to it. And I think how we embrace these kinds of negative experiences, violent conflict, can be promoted and perpetuated by culture if we are not careful, and if we allow this to happen. Thank you for bringing up this point about the important role of culture in conflict.
Yeah, another point I could relate to was the crispness and simplicity with which the conflict as well as peace was explained in 6 steps. So I was reading those 6 steps back and forth several times. I just thought I'll put that as well.
Thank you. Yes. Was there a particular step, 1 or 2 steps, that you felt were most important?
Yeah. I've just taken screenshots of that, and then let me just.
Okay.
While I do that, someone else could comment.
Sure.
Vipin, you wanted to say something? I think Vipin is not there. I think the one interesting thing that I wanted to share is, like, because I do a lot of trainings with children and with youth, and so every time I'll go with conflict transformation techniques, so I kind of make it a playful way of putting, like, avoid, accommodate, compete, compromise, and collaborate, as the fundamental techniques of transforming conflict or mitigating conflict that way. But I think the introspection of somebody like Deepak, who has maybe seen conflict from a different prism, or person like me who was born and brought up in a place where conflict has been always there, And these two lenses of looking at conflict are totally enlightening, because I get to learn his version, and it actually extends my understanding of how conflict is perceived from somebody that way. And it is also fascinating when you get to hear all those interesting thoughts. Yeah, Deepak.
Yeah. So, in fact, I was just looking at those screenshots. I felt there were these are 6 points for both things. One is the positive side, and the other one is the flip side. So, very complicated topics like peace and conflict actually are the two sides of the same coin in each of those steps. So, yeah, not listening to others, not wanting to listen to others, imposing and accepting opinions. So, all of these things are because in my case, I would not imagine the complicated topics like these to be binary. But when you simplify it, it actually comes across as very binary in each of those 6 steps.
Yes.
I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yes. So I'm not sure if I understand if you're saying that peace is one side of the coin and conflict is another.
Yeah. For example, let me narrate one. The peace always celebrates diversity and differences, whereas violence or conflict completely doesn't celebrate that. In fact, quite opposite. Imposes single truth on all. It listens to only your side, whereas peace listens to all sides.
Right.
Recognize the issue problem, what is to be solved, and the blame, the conflict side says blame other side for the problem. So in that sense, I was saying it
Yes, I agree. There is this binary or flip side of the coin. I tend to put peace on one side and violence on the other.
Yeah.
Rather than conflict. I agree with Prapti's comment earlier that conflict does not equal violence. Conflict is neutral. It's neither positive or negative. The conflict is a natural, inevitable human experience. What becomes positive or negative is how we understand or fail to understand the conflict and then react either without an understanding of it or respond in a constructive, or I think from Omar's point of view, a transformational point of view.
Yeah. So it's the flip side.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing. I understood what you're trying to say, and probably mine was a wrong.
No, it wasn't wrong. I'm just sharing how I view it. Okay. Omar, how are we doing with this? The debrief, the brief debrief.
Yeah. No, I think we can move on with the ones that we have had. Maybe because this conflict is a huge debate, it will take a lot of time that way. But I think we can move on to that part now.
And I believe that what some of my remarks may eventually turn around to maybe this topic as we go through. So now I will share. I'll see if I can successfully share my screen here. Okay. Can we see this correctly? Is this coming through, the slides?
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Good. Let me clear some of this. Okay. Well, so I'm experimenting here this morning with you on this topic. I find it very fascinating to merge the two fields of peace building and photography. I think this is very innovative and a very valuable frame of reference. I'm interested in how we can choose as photographers, and I know that I've looked at some of your backgrounds earlier, a few weeks ago, as you were signing in to enroll in this training, that many of you are photographers or have experience in photography. And so I'm interested in just beginning my remarks by talking about how we can choose in peace building photography what lens might be the best. What lens? And I wanted to ask each of you what you think, since you've been in this training and since you've been doing experiences with photography, what do you think is the best lens to use for peace photography? And again, is this something, Omar, I can that people can chat in?
Yeah, anything that works for them. They can unmute and talk. I see Ranjit wants to share something. I saw him.
Okay, sure, please.
For me, it's 1855 mm.
Would you repeat that again?
18 to 55 mm lens.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Hello. Hello.
Yes,
Am I audible?
Lakshmi?
Like for me, I think it do not depend. It does not depend on the lens. It depends on the like vision of the person or the photographer who is capturing the moments. So according to me, it's not depends on lens. So I don't know whether I am right or wrong.
Oh, there's no right or wrong. I'm just asking the photographers among you what you think. Thank you for that. Anyone else have a comment on the lens? Yes, Mohammed.
Hello, sir. I think for peace and conflict photography, for example, I'm here in Afghanistan. Sometimes it's hard for me to capture Taliban from near. So I'll need to capture them from a long distance where they cannot see me, and I should protect myself from being beaten by them. So for example, a zoom lens may be good for me to stay in a long distance and take their pictures. So it differs, it's different according to the maybe object that you want to take it.
Yes, very, very good point. Sometimes it's important to have the zoom. And,
yes, sir.
Not only to for capturing the right image, but also for your own protection and well-being.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. One more comment, please. Anyone?
Can I?
I see Awais is going with the Zoom. Suhaib, you're saying the 18 to 300. Wow, okay. Anyone else want to comment? Yes?
Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I was just wondering, I mean, if I can be a little bit philosophical here, probably you need your heart lens to have effective photography about peace or a conflict.
I'm not sure I heard or understood what you said. Would you mind repeating?
I said, maybe your heart's length, if I can be a little philosophical.
Oh, the heart.
Yeah.
Okay, the heart lens. Okay, that's a very important lens. I would say. Thank you for offering that. Well, let's think about this. If you wanted to chat in, if you haven't had a chance, but I'll be talking with you and sharing some ideas that I'm coming from a perspective that nonviolence is your best and most powerful lens for peace building. And actually, like a good photographer, and some of you have already said, there's no one lens. There are many lenses that you might use. And nonviolence as a lens for peace building and photography is like having in your camera bag many different lenses. Before I go any further, I just want to also express my gratitude for having the opportunity to visit with all of you today. And this is a small group, but a very important piece of work that you're engaged in. And I want to express my gratitude. Omar, Suhail, Dipsita, the people who have been planning and organizing, and of course, all of you who are in the process with increasing and developing the kinds of capacities for peace-building photography that you're engaged in. So thank you very much for allowing me to witness and be a part of this with you. I'm from the University of Rhode Island in the United States. I thought I would just spend a moment telling you something about me and why I am here. This is my university. Of course, it doesn't look like this now. I'm actually not at my university. I'm in the state of Florida now. So I'm far away where it's very warm out. My university is covered in snow, perhaps much the way you might be in the northern part of the country there in Kashmir region. My work and what brings me here is through the universities, the University of Rhode Island URI Center for Nonviolence and Peace Studies. And this is the multicultural building. Our center is located there to re-emphasize, Deepak, what you were talking about with the importance of cultural views and cultural understanding and dialogue that was mentioned earlier. My teacher and mentor into the world of peace and nonviolence, my background was in psychology, with particularly working with children in developmental, positive developmental psychological growth and preventive work with young children and young adolescents, teenagers. Much of my work was with families and schools and communities in a positive, preventive approach. But when I met Dr. Bernard Lafayette in 1998, I shifted my work immediately from the psychological problems of children and what might be wrong with them to a focus on nonviolence and peace and how we should be building the conditions in our communities that promote healthy, positive psychological and emotional well-being. And in a sense, Dr. Bernard Lafayette brought me into the field of nonviolence and peace. Who is Dr. Bernard Lafayette? He was a young person, very similar to many of you, who as a college student had the chance to work directly as an activist in the United States in the 1960s civil rights movement, led, of course, by the Nobel Peace Prize and world global leader of nonviolence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. What I learned from him was what he had learned from working 8 years beside and at the right hand of Dr. Martin Luther King. And I'm sharing my ideas that I, in a sense, inherited from Dr. King through Bernard Lafayette, and I'm sharing some of those ideas with you today. Bernard was with Dr. King on the day that he was assassinated and murdered in 1968 on the morning of April 4th. They were in the Lorraine Motel room where Dr. King was staying in Memphis. Dr. King was there in Memphis to help organize the garbage collectors, the lowest paid and lowest status workers in the city of Memphis, in the state of Tennessee. And it was there that violence had broken out, and Dr. King was staying in Memphis until a peaceful resolution to the issues they were facing could be developed. And in that motel room, he sent Bernard ahead to Washington. And as Bernard was leaving the room, Dr. King said to him this quote, "Bernard, one more thing. When we finish here in Memphis and after the Poor People's Campaign in Washington, D.C., our next campaign has to be to institutionalize and internationalize nonviolence training and education." Bernard left the room. He traveled to Washington. By the end of the day, Dr. King was shot dead and murdered outside of that very motel room on the balcony. Bernard Lafayette took that as his final words with Dr. King, as his future life mission to educate and train people and to bring nonviolence and peace education into all institutions and to internationalize this around the world. And he spent his entire life, including even some activity today while he's in his 80s, doing that very thing. He established our center, and our center, I'm proud to say, over the last 22 years, we have trained literally thousands of people in various parts of the world. Most importantly, our work is focused on creating leaders. We cannot go and train everyone in the world. We train leaders who facilitate the education and training. Our leaders are in a number of countries, probably 40 to 45 different countries around the world. We do this through certification and training of trainers and leadership development. Now, let's get to the most important thing, because all of you as peace-building photographers are interested in creating peace. And we have different ways of creating peace. Right now we see this authoritarian dictatorship, oppression by the state government as one way of creating like peace, and order. Or we have a democratic, representative kind of process juxtaposed on this view, where the individual is valued and there is a greater sense of freedom. So we can impose what we think of as peace, like law and order, or we can actually value human beings in a way that creates real mutual harmony between them. Maybe some of you have heard of UNESCO. Anyone heard of UNESCO? Raise your hand if you have.
Yes, sir.
You know that UNESCO stands for the Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. The UN has a very high mission of creating a peaceful world, but how they do that is through UNESCO, because the founders of the UN realized that through education and scientific and cultural contribution, we create the conditions of peace. don't impose peace, we create the conditions of peace. And in the preamble of the Constitution, or the founding of UNESCO, there's this famous quote: "Since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that the defenses of peace must be constructed." The great and terrible war, and by the way, they were talking about the Second World War, and we're in the midst right now of seeing a similar drama play out, with violence and militarism and warfare imposed on an independent nation, Russia invading, lots of innocent lives already lost. And here we have, almost in a premonition way, the great and terrible war which has ended, World War II, was a war made possible by the denial of democratic principles of dignity, equality, human mutual respect of men and women, and by the propagation in their place, through ignorance, through prejudice, of the doctrine of the inequality of men and races. This is very important, because if you want to create peace and you're working in photography toward a goal of peace, we have to remember that war and violence always begins in the minds of men and women. It's not something that comes from the outside into us. It comes from the inside out. And so UNESCO has a very important mission in creating the conditions. What does that have to do with you as photographers? Well, if we want to create peaceful conditions, we have to make sure that we're using photography in a way that actually contributes to the educational or scientific or cultural conditions that promote peace in our minds. And of course, all of you as visual artists in photography know that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, why is that? I could talk to you about the psychology of that, but it's visual information. It's not the words like now I'm speaking all of these words verbally. No, a picture goes right into the brain. It elicits brain activity in a very different way than language. And so photography, like this program and training, can be used to create the conditions for peace. Peace photography can be a very powerful source of information and education and training, just with one thing. Maybe some of you, if you're into photography, you'll know this is a famous photograph of a student uprising, the Tiananmen Square uprising, demonstrations, people's uprising in China, in Tiananmen Square, in the heart of Beijing. And of course, this photograph down here, you can see in the lower left, the sole individual who, as the military was brought in to crush the demonstration, this person stood in front of the tank and would not let them go. There's been even a film made about this person. He's referred to as the tank man. But this really changed a lot of attitudes and a lot of minds simply by this brave act of resistance to armed oppression in the Tiananmen Square uprising. Well, all of you are learning to tell stories with your photos, and I think someone already mentioned it's important to have not a particular lens, but to have a vision. And you know, a vision often starts with a dream or an idea. I had a dream as a child to own a red bicycle, and I worked cutting grass in my town as a young boy around the age of 10, trying to raise money just with nickels and dimes and quarters and a few dollars. And I saved up over a long period of time $29.95. I was able at age 10 to buy a bicycle looked just like that. And that bicycle gave me great freedom and independence because I could go anywhere in my town I chose to go. And it started with a dream, a vision of me with a red bicycle and riding freely. I rode that bike down to where ships come in my town, and I met some strange people who were from a faraway land, and I dreamed of going to a faraway land. Many years later, I was no longer 10. By the time I did reach a faraway land, it was 2011. And I must say, in my trip to India in 2011, one of the first places I visited was Jammu, Kashmir. So dreams can come true. You have to have a dream, you have to have a vision, and of course you all are familiar with the dream of Gandhi, whose vision, became a reality. Dr. King's dream for equality and civil rights for African Americans actually became a dream and a reality for not just African Americans, but for all people who were striving for equality in the United States. Well, people have been around for about 200,000 years, and the world has been around for billions of years, the universe for even more billions of years. So we're kind of finding our way in what's going on the best we can. But one of the things that advances us is our ability to have a vision, to have a dream. Gandhi and King and other peace builders in the world were visionary thinkers, like Darwin. They had a vision. Darwin had a vision of how human beings were evolving and changing. And Darwin once said, "It is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It is the one most responsive to change." Darwin's vision of human development on the planet was a unique idea, not the survival of the strongest, not the survival of the meanest, not the survival of the most violent, but the most adaptive. We have opportunities now challenging us where we have to become adaptive. So, I'm proposing that my hypothesis to you today, you photographers, that the most powerful lens for peace-building photography is the lens of nonviolence, the lens that Gandhi saw the world through, the lens that King, Mandela, and many others have taken as their lens to view the world, to dream through and to see the world through, a vision of nonviolence through this lens. Dr. King lays out a philosophy, and we have to make sure that in all peace building, we have a philosophical foundation. Peace building is not a method or a technique that we can describe, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. No, it is grounded and comes from a deep understanding of the philosophical importance of nonviolence. Dr. King lays out a philosophy most people have never seen, heard of, or read. It's in a very famous essay. I will try to send this to you, Omar, so that you can share it with the group. It's called his Pilgrimage to Nonviolence. In it is the heart of Dr. King's philosophy that I want all of you to read more about and to integrate into your work, I hope. we know that a pilgrimage is a personal, moral, or spiritually significant journey. Well, to be effective in photography, you have to have many different lenses. But it's the philosophical grounding that you have as a photographer looking through these various lenses that's most important. I'm going to share with you 6 lenses that I think are important that come from the work of Dr. King. The first is the lens of courage. Principle 1, nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. I'd like everyone to unmute and join me in reading that principle together. If you could all unmute now. Everyone unmuted? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Nonviolence
Non-violence
for courageous
Way of
way of
life for courageous
courageous
people.
Thank you. You can go back to muting now so that we don't have the background noise. Thank you. This principle, this lens has 2 parts. Nonviolence is a way of life, meaning that it's something we do every day, all day, and it requires a great deal of courage. Courage comes from a French word, coeur, meaning from the heart. Who was it earlier that said, in talking about lenses and vision, it came from the heart? This is exactly what this principle is. This is the first lens. In peace building, you have to be courageous. Like if you're taking pictures where you might be in danger, you have to be able to summon up your courage to live peacefully and non-violently, and also in your photographic work. The second lens is the lens of the beloved community. And you don't have to unmute, you can just read this with me, okay? Ready? The beloved community is the framework for the future. This lens also has 2 parts. The first is the beloved community. And we all can talk about what that would mean to us. What is the vision when we look through this lens? What are we seeing that makes a beloved community? I'm sure you could write and describe it, like people getting along, friendship, understanding, cooperation, equality, freedom. These are the things that make for a beloved community. Now, the second part is the framework for the future. Dr. King believed that the beloved community could not happen instantly. It had to be a vision that we were working toward. It wouldn't happen today or tomorrow. It may take a number of years. Actually, what we're doing today may not actually manifest itself in a real planetary-wide, worldwide beloved community for decades, maybe not another 50 or 100 years. Nonetheless, this is our vision for the future. The principle 3, the lens focuses us on problems, not people. And you can read this one with me. Attack forces of evil, not persons doing evil. This is a very important lens that focuses us on the underlying root causal conditions. If you're taking notes, you could write that down. That's a very important lens through which Dr. King saw the world. Let's address the root causal conditions, not attacking and blaming people. People come and go. Presidents come and go. Dictators come and go. But what are the conditions which allow dictators, which allow people to rise to power, to conduct evil acts of violence and human suffering? These are the issues below the surface that we have to put that lens on and actually look at. Sometimes we focus a lot on, like right now with Ukraine, Putin, Putin, Putin. But it's actually much deeper than one man at the top. This was the case with all famous dictators, if you think about Hitler. Now, Hitler was part of the problems in Germany in World War II and Nazism, but there were conditions there and many other people who contributed to the rise of Hitler to power. So we have to understand there are these forces of evil, what King calls the forces of evil. These are the root conditions which create violence and harm and suffering. King actually believed that the people doing these things were also victims of violence themselves. Fourth principle is to focus on the acceptance of suffering. In peace building, you have to be prepared not only to be courageous, but you know you're going to endure some suffering. It's not comfortable work sometimes in peace building. And you have to be able to be prepared to accept some difficulty, some challenges, some suffering without retaliating. Because there is a cause and there is a specific goal. So in your photography work, if you can capture human suffering for a higher purpose, for a cause, to achieve a particular goal, your picture will say 1,000 words. The fifth lens is the lens of love. Avoid internal violence of the spirit as well as external physical violence. This gets back to what is in the minds of men. And it's not enough to eliminate external violence. We have to eliminate, the internal, the hatred we have, the bias we have, the prejudice we have. This is what leads eventually to a chain of escalating violence. So this is what King referred to as the principle of love. And he talked about love, as did Gandhi. It's not nonviolence if we merely love those that love us. It is nonviolence only when we love those that hate us. King talked about three different kinds of love from the Greek philosophers. Eros, which is romantic love. You're falling in love with the love of your life. Then there was philia, which is brotherly love. I treat you nice, you treat me nice. It's reciprocal love, conditional love. And then King says, agape is the highest form of love because it is unconditional, disinterested, unreciprocated love. This is love for its own sake, not to gain friendship or brotherly love from someone else. This agape is a very powerful part of the lens of nonviolence. And the last principle is principle 6, the lens of justice. The universe is on the side of justice is a phrase that Dr. King often referred to in his philosophy. And this is, of course, when we think of justice, we think of fairness, we think of balance. But also in this principle, we have to embed the ideas of mercy and hope. Hope is very important. If we don't think there will be justice, if we give up hope, we become hopeless. And when a people or a community is overcome with hopelessness, they become desperate. And they either give up or they engage in desperate acts of violence. So justice is very important. It doesn't come immediately. The universe tells us, when there's cold, eventually there's a season of warmth. When there's rain, eventually there is a dry season. There is a balance in the natural order of the universe, and this balance is what King refers to with justice. It's important to keep the lens of justice with hope and mercy. I'm going to just stop here and leave you with this quote. We're caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. King said he could never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. This, Dr. King said in his philosophical vision of nonviolence and peace in the world, is the interrelated structure of reality. So what does this mean for each of you? Nonviolence, in the view of Dr. King, provides you with the most powerful lenses for your work in peace-building photography. That you can use these lenses to advance the cause of peace through courage as a way of life, through the loving community, through focusing on the root causes, the problems, not just people, the perseverance to endure suffering for a higher purpose of goal and cause, the unconditionality of love, and the lens of justice, mercy, forgiveness. I hope this has been informative to you. I don't know how we're doing with our time, but I wanted to see if there is time, if you have any questions, if you want to chat these in or just speak them. Depending on the time, I'm still here to respond to you. Thank you very much for your attention and for all of your effort using photography and your skill as photographers to create a vision for peace through these lenses.
Floor is open for questions or comments or anything that you want to talk and share.
Just one thing, if I may go ahead.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah, so the last point in the slide, which is being portrayed, justice is equated, said to be mercy, forgiveness, and hope. In current times, justice is often not equated with this, or sometimes also equated with punishment. And so, do you want to comment on that?
Yes, thank you. You're exactly right. Punishment is not always justice. Let's take, for example, if someone steals, let's say you have a car. I don't know if you have a car or transportation, but just as an example, someone comes and one night steals your car. The police are called. You talk to the police, you say you have a green car. It's this type of car, you describe it. The police go, they find the person who is driving your car who stole it 1 or 2 days later. They capture this person, okay? In the meantime, your car has been damaged. The person has removed certain parts of your car. The car doesn't work properly anymore, but the person who stole your car has now been arrested and now sentenced to several years in jail. They're in prison. But you no longer have a car. So the person is being punished, but what is justice for you? You want a car. So until this situation and your need can be restored, punishment does not really rebalance Okay? And what is the need of the person who stole your car? That person needs either money, or they need transportation, or they are desperate and they have to find some way to earn a living through crime. They have needs and you have needs. And in this situation of punishment, your needs are not met to restore a well-functioning car, and their needs are not met either. So real justice is a restoration where both parties, the needs of both parties, can be met equally. Someone mentioned this in the very first comment, which is the win-win situation conflict. But justice usually involves some mercy or some forgiveness of this person who stole the car. And in this way, in order to make amends and to restore you back to the original situation, this person would have to work in some way to earn the money necessary to repair or to restore your car or to purchase you another car. This is true justice. This is true balance. And it usually requires some mercy or forgiveness rather than simply having punishment. It doesn't mean that there isn't punishment. You know, I'm not saying that justice is no punishment. You know, there are certain consequences and certain rules, but we have to have a balance. We have to have a restoration. And to do that, we have to also think hopefully. Hopefully. I hope that addresses your comment. Thank you for that comment. That's very important. Thank you, Prabhu. You were the win-win comment earlier too. Yeah. So justice, you know, is hopefully both. This is what Dr. King talked about with conflict reconciliation. Both parties have their needs met in a community where everyone is, through friendship and understanding, working to meet the needs of all. Another comment or question?
Yeah. I'm Deepak here. I would be interested to know more about this UNESCO program that you mentioned about training and education of non-violence. But maybe this is not the right platform, but I would be more interested to know more about the program.
Yeah, certainly. Yes, our university has a training institute. Unfortunately, for the last couple of summers, our training institute has been changed because of the travel restrictions and the prohibitions of gathering in person and things. But I can forward some information about that, and you can also visit our University of Rhode Island Center for Nonviolence and Peace Studies website. It's possible, if not this summer, the following summer of 2023, the institutes, the training institutes, live training institutes will be reinstituted.
Thank you.
Omar, I think we're going to do away with the groups, unfortunately, but I've exceeded my time and I'm sensitive to that too.
I think we can have the group parts in the next session. Last one. Okay, am I audible, sir?
Yep.
I was saying, like, the group part can be something that we can also, because there is a lot of information sharing that has happened. So maybe we can give them a week of processing this, information. And I see a lot of thoughts already coming up. So maybe we can do this group activity in the next last workshop that we have, right? Okay, good.
So, yeah. So, thank you again. My schedule now requires that I must leave. I want to just again commend Omar and the team and Sahel for this really innovative and very creative approach to peace building. I think it's very unique. It's very important in the modern days of the 21st century. We have social media and the visual media is very, very important. And I think each of you can take your training and your information and accomplish very important work. Thank you so much for allowing me the time and the opportunity to speak with you. And I hope maybe to join you next time for a little bit.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Paul. I think also like your, your being the part in this program, and it has actually added value, and how you have kind of bridged this understanding of, conflict and peace building. Because for many times, like, I could see a lot of them were not sure, like, why would we name it peace when we are going technical with the skill set. And I think also we were exploring and evolving over the I see Ranjit smiling other, because I have read their faces over the course of time, but now they after this session they know why we call it Peace Photographers Project. And also I mean, this conflict and peace is a debatable topic. We can talk about it for hours and find windows, just that we are keeping count of the time. There are messages for you, Paul, but thank you so much. We definitely will have you in the next week as well.
Okay. Yes. Well, I think it's very important that you have these skills in order to tell the stories visually that are important for you to tell. And I hope that you can, as you improve your skills as photographers, that you can connect those with the philosophical importance of courage and community and justice. These are the themes through which you use your photography to tell these stories, and the message that you must bring through the skills that you are learning with your photography. Peace and blessings to everyone, and hope to see you again.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much, everybody. We have Sohail Saab with us. Over to you. I think I have spoken enough today.
All right. That was pretty amazing. And I think it was badly needed for what exactly we're doing here, to connect, like Omar said, technical field or photography with peace. I think that's what the main object or main reason was behind creating this particular program. So all is gone, but thanks to him, it was very, very informative. We still have time. It's not that we don't have time. We have about 40 minutes, which is more than what I probably need today. And what we're going to do is we'll start with your submissions. Before I do that, I just want to mention this was a very, very hard assignment, and I was not expecting 12 submissions. It definitely, I wouldn't have been able to do it, but you did it, and I was definitely moved, and I'm so proud of you guys, because every single photograph I can tell, not only have you been able to capture the stories, but the technical part of it, for the first time I've seen that every single thing that I would have wanted you to do, you have done that. So I'm going to go through these pictures now one by one, and you will understand what I mean. But I'm I'm so proud of you. Honestly, it makes me very, very happy. So let me just go ahead and do that. And if we don't get time for a new technique today, that's okay, because we're pretty much done with this. I will still try to give you a few pointers towards the end. Let me just start with sharing my screen. Okay. All right, so we had 12 assignments, I guess. 12 people have submitted. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So we're going to start with Deepak. And let me just go ahead and first tell you what I feel. I am going to mostly focus on technical part of it. But as far as stories are concerned, you guys have nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. So this is the conflict and this is the peace. You can, as far as techniques are concerned, normally speaking, I would have wanted the person over here in the frame or nothing at all. I personally don't like cutting people into halves, but somehow it works in this photo because it sort of creates a mystery who these people are and how they are reacting to whatever is going on in the shot. You can clearly see not a happy situation, and the contrast is how nicely she's dressed, beautiful colors. She has jewelry on, but at the same time, not a happy situation, looks like. The second shot is clearly a happy feeling, his expression and the content of the photo both, and the way it has been composed. So both shots have been placed rule of thirds, and I like how the other lady in the right side is in focus, but the focus is still on the main subject. Here, you could have gone and placed the boy in dead center also by turning a little bit to your left, but I like the way you shot it. The angle you used is where, when you're coming in, you're having strong foreground right on the right-hand side, and then it's taking you into the shot all the way to the end of the shot. So I want to know real quick, maybe a minute, what your thought process was so that we can cover everybody, just a minute or so.
Yeah. To be at the outset, I want to apologize because I did not click this photograph after the assignment was given. I searched in my archive in the recent past which are the photographs that I clicked and which represent this peace and conflict theme, and then I selected these two. So this is one, the girl who is well dressed is being showcased like an object for possible marriage, and she's extremely uncomfortable, and everybody is looking at her to show up the best foot, and the very ritual of this kind, I detest it, and I was so sad at that time. I just clicked it so that I remember this rest of my life, and I was part of the gathering, unfortunately, or fortunately maybe, because I clicked this photo. So I won't let it happen in my inner circle. So that's the emotion with which this photograph was clicked. Yeah, so that time, if I was aware enough about photography, now I probably would have got the two half bodies or half faces that are seen on the right side bottom corner. So, but yeah, nevertheless, I thought of sharing this. The other photograph is a person who is peaceful, who is happy, expresses that kind of expressions. He is my son, and then we were walking in a mall where the entire length of a wall was this picture. I tried to crop the name of the advertiser, and then therefore you see the right hand side upper corner being not fully captured. But nevertheless, I thought this is a feeling of liberation, the feeling of no pressure, no tension, all peace, and the happy picture that I could click from an angle. So the angle with which I have taken is largely a result of not having a convenient place, or more than that, probably I could not have covered it if I would have been right in front of him with my camera. So that's the reason why I wanted the full span of the wings on the wall. So that's how I clicked it.
Excellent. Yeah. Very nicely done. It doesn't matter that you didn't take this picture after we did the program, but that's okay. Even if it's an old photo, it doesn't matter. But beautiful content. Very good job. Jivika is not here. She submitted one image. So I'm going to skip on her. We're going to move on to Lakshmi. So I'm going to guess this is, yeah, so this is her conflict and this is the peace. Again, I'm not sure when you shot this photo, but I definitely like what you have captured here. It clearly shows that they are in some serious conversation or something serious is being addressed. Maybe.
Hello.
Yeah.
May I, sir?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the first image which represents the peace, like you chose the right one, which one is for peace and which one is for conflict. So the first one is the farmers. Like I went to an event yesterday, Karnal. So they are farmers. So like the event was really good, but during that event, one small thing was emerged out, and all the people were like against, like the politics matters comes into that discussion. So the person in front, that third farmer, like he told, like he asked to the doctor, why are you saying that government did that, do that, we are struggling a lot due to government, like yes, that one. So yes, I believe in him, because farmers are really facing a lot of things, and like my organization is working for, like that project is working for farmers. So I went to there in that event, so everything was going well, but a single small thing, and everything is like something I felt that it just gone down. अब तो खराब हो गया सब कुछ, but still like my project heads and everyone was here and cool down the situation. So that time I thought the problem is not with the situation, the problem is in our mind. Like what kind of, like the process through which we are taking things in our mind, how we perceive the things. Like चाहते तो ये uncle like normally भी बोल सकते थे ना, हाँ yes, like the politicians have done nothing for us, but still he made a kiosk, and ठीक है, they have faced, I know, but the way he told everything was really wrong. जो मुझको ऐसा लगा वो उस तरीके से नहीं होना चाहिए था. तो yes, these things I saw, और फिर मैंने अपने local area में भी I have noticed few things, like how people like लड़ने के लिए start हो जाते हैं. कुछ शांत करना हो तो they are like lag behind करते हैं, लेकिन अगर लड़ना हो तो we are here. तो the problem is in our mind, not with the situation, not with the politician, not with the nation. कहीं नहीं है problem, it is in our head only. So yes, that is all about that picture. And the second one is, it is related to the nature. Like from the very first day, I already told you I love plants, I love nature. So I took picture in a daylight में लिए, but I just reduced the light in it in the through the camera with the help of the camera features. So yes, yeah, this is all about my pictures.
Yeah, excellent. They're both good. And I'm not sure when you shot this photo, did you take any in a close up? So if the environment, whatever it is this place is, if that's not important for you to show, we could also zoom in and show their expressions, maybe something like that. So one of the shots could have been like this, right? Now we can see what's going on their faces more clearly, because I don't believe that showing the whole place, unless you want to show the location where they are, like if they are next to a courthouse or next to some sort of building that which you want to show that they were, protesting and they were all come out, and that was part of the story. I think in that case, showing the whole area was important, but I would probably zoom in. I'm not sure what kind of camera you had, first of all. Maybe you didn't have that capability of getting too close. So I would say this one is more effective when it comes to telling what you were trying to tell us. But I do like your composition, the way it was also. It's not like anything is wrong with that. So this one is also pretty creative. Yes, it does give you the sense of peace, and I can tell the light coming from behind definitely shows that. Okay, let's see. Next up is Mahroob. So as far as composition is concerned, this is just brilliantly taken, very nicely taken shot. Even if it's dead center lady, the one who was the main subject here, it really doesn't matter. It is still working because it sort of creates a triangle, and I probably would have wanted to see a couple more steps in front of her, but it still works nicely. The second photo is brilliant. It's really nicely done. Very good composition. Maybe a little bit more to your left. I'm not sure if you cropped it. Maybe a little bit more space in the left so that it looks, there is more breathing room for the hands. But you did catch the expressions, even though they are sort of crying, but it is a peaceful photo, which is pretty interesting concept. So anything you want to say, Meadow? Right there. Not there. Okay, not a problem. We can move on to Muhammad Mustafa. All right.
Hello to everyone, and
go ahead, sir. You have about a minute.
Okay, sir. My photos are not the new and fresh ones, but I want to show a piece in this photo where everyone can learn and go to school. That's my daughter, and she has a bag and wearing and looking for books. And her face expression. This was the piece one. This was a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, when the Taliban took my country's control completely, and she was scared of the situation and the stories that she had heard from elders. So she was praying to Allah for the security in the country. And this is the conflict one.
Yes. Let me first talk about the technical aspects of the photos. This one is technically perfect. You have a person, the main subject is a rule of thirds. You have this wooden shelf. On the right-hand side, it's leading your eyes. So are these books, leading your eyes to the subject. The expression is really good. Technically, I'm not sure when you shot it, but it's done perfectly. Very nice job. And then the second one, technically speaking, I would like to place her a little bit more to the right So we're going to come in and crop. And I'm going to come a little bit more top over here. And it's okay to crop the head a little bit. Doesn't matter. I just want to show the expression. So maybe not so much here. So technically speaking, this picture, expression-wise is perfect. Story-wise, there is absolutely no problem. But I would, since you took it before the program, I'm sure you will now take care of things like these. Just make sure that your subject is placed on proper place. It's not center, but other than that, see here, like you see, she's at dead center, right? And just by cropping a little bit more to your right, like so, works fine. But stories, brilliant, nice capture, and techniques in this photograph are spot on. Very good job.
Thank you, sir.
Next one, we have Oais. Let me first give a couple of tips and my thoughts, and then Oais, then you can tell me exactly what was going on. As far as your photos are concerned, let me first talk about this one. Technically speaking, this couldn't get better. You obviously are paying attention, and you are almost there when it comes to photography. And you were so young and you have so much time still to learn. But technically speaking, this is just spot on. So let me just say why. First of all, your subject is perfectly on rule of thirds. That's where it's supposed to be. You had the floor. What most of the people would have made this mistake is they would have done this. Okay. This is a good picture, but it is not as good as what you did. You chose these planks, the floor as a leading line. All these lines are going towards your subject and forcing people to look at your subject, and they're creating depth, and also at the same time they're creating a very strong foreground. When it comes to peace, you chose to include the light on the right hand side, which is a sign of peace, and the monotone of the image where there is no conflict going on also dictates peace. That's brilliantly done right there. This picture, which shows conflict, I love. You shot it from the car, and I know why you shot it from the car, because you probably wouldn't feel safe shooting it openly. I like that gives you a feeling of being restrained, being confined. This photo gives you that feeling, and story-wise, it's just brilliantly shot. And so also technically, there was absolutely no room for you to think about where to shoot it from and how to do it. But considering where you are, I love the approach, and I love the composition in this picture too. So if you want to say a couple of things real quick, go ahead. Okay, I saw it. He cannot talk right now. I'm going to move on, give him some time. We'll come back to his picture. Okay. All right, so next one is Prapti. Let me just say a couple of things about your photos. I just saw them, but again, I'm not sure. Prapti, let me just ask you, when did you take these?
Today evening only.
Okay, so again, makes me so happy to see how, technically speaking, this is a perfect shot. You have both subjects on rule of thirds, the one that these two people are going out and the truck that's coming in. And all these lines, these power lines are going in. And I'm going to guess this is a conflict picture, right? And I like the texture in these little rocks here. It's brilliantly shot. And then the second shot, let me just listen to you first. Real quick, tell me what's going on in these two photos.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm sorry that I submitted it so late. So I just shifted to Bangalore. after 1.5 years coming to the college. Meeting everyone for the first time, and we were like quite overwhelmed for the last week. So the first photo is of the library of a college, which sort of depicts peace, because for me, like I think books are my happy space. Even if I am in an unknown space, which I am right now, I think books sort of keeps me safe. So I think the first thing that I did when I came to the college was went to a library and I just took the shot today. Um, I think the second one is that so our college is being made. So we are on a college which is very young, so the university didn't have a proper transportation for us. So we are staying outside the college, which is like a kilometer far away, and we're still fighting with the administration to provide this shuttle to and from the campus. So I think all of us have to walk in like these muddy roads every day. So I mean that was I wanted to depict like some sort of conflict there. And I think there's a lot of pollution and sunlight, like very harsh light. So the two girls are carrying umbrella, and like to depict the construction, there was a truck going. So yeah, that was the idea of the photograph.
Yes, absolutely brilliant. I mean, both shots, story-wise, are spot on, and your techniques, especially in this photograph, are perfect. I wouldn't make any changes to this. All right. Good job. Next up is Rinji. He has two photos. I'm going to guess this is going to be conflict, and this is going to be the peace. I like how you place this dead center because it's symmetrical, and I would like to know about your thoughts, what exactly you're trying to tell us.
Yeah, shall I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it was opposite. The first picture, yeah, this one represents conflict for me, as there are fences. For me, fences create restrictions, and restrictions means there is some conflict. And the second one is a community place. It's a school where children play, old people come for meetings, they sit there. So this is a place for communication. So this picture shows a peace for me. Yeah, these were the thoughts.
All right. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I figured it out because here there are kids playing. It does show a happy moment. Technically speaking, I would have wanted to see their faces, but it's okay. Even it's okay. The way you have captured it is fine, because it looks like there was a lot of shadow on them, and the light was in the back, which is not a problem at all. It still works. So we could maybe see if we can see, but I like the lighting actually, the way you have shot it. I like the lighting in that one. And also the first one, technically speaking, very nicely done. Great job. All right, so I'm back to, I'm going to go to Shmail. So again, here, she knows exactly what needs to be done. There's a leading line going in. The lady is on rule of thirds, and so is the horse in the carriage, rule of thirds. And the second shot, brilliantly shot. Person walking, and there's more space in front of him, giving him a breathing room or walking room, or creating the sense of flow. It has been cropped at the right spot, and I like the lighting. I'm just thinking what I could change in this photo. I don't see anything that I would take out or, mention that something was wrong. I don't see any of those. So I'm going to guess. Why don't you, Shmail, tell us what these photos were and what the thought process was. I'm going to start with this one, the first one. Let me see, Shmail. Okay. Shmail, I can read your comments. Don't worry about it. So for conflict one, it represents the artists behind are painting the wall of kindness. So this is your conflict, right? And clothes are hanged for the poor people, and the old man needs help. needs care, so that there is kind of conflict, right? And for peace one, it is just represents people moving without any hustling, talking to each other. Okay. Yeah. Nicely done. Both story-wise and technique-wise, both photos are great. Absolutely great. Very nice job. So next up we have Suhaib. So go ahead, Suhaib. Tell us your thought process and what's going on here.
So first of all, the topics were very difficult this time and very different also. So I was thinking to how I would complete this assignment. So, but the weather conditions didn't allow me to. So at the end moment, I decided to put forward some of my old clicks. So the first person, the picture you can see is what peace actually is for me is. These locations, getting to these locations, the house that I actually wanted to spend a night in. So this I tried to click the peace and put more and more details, the surroundings into that adds the beauty of this piece. So, and the second picture of mine is the conflict one. It was the best way to click the conflict with peace. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Oh, we can tell. No, your story. As far as your storytelling is concerned, they're both effective. Both photographs. When you look at them, you can tell what's going on. And technically speaking, this is on rule of thirds. That's all I see. It is a macro shot. That's what it seems to me. That's the shots that you like. And then you do it well. You do a pretty good job at macros. I like the concept behind this photo. Very interesting and unique. And as far as this is concerned, this does give you a feeling of peace, of course. I would have wanted to see a little bit more foreground here, a little bit more. The shot was a little bit lower than where it has been cropped. But other than that, it's nicely done.
I wasn't knowing about those rules at that time. That's why there are some errors in
I know.
Next time I would visit, I would clearly add those things.
I'm pretty sure. Yes. Thank you for submitting them. Even if it was hard, I said that in the beginning, the assignment was very hard. So Vikash is next. He has two photos. One is obviously peace. And the second one is where the conflict is. Technically speaking, I would have wanted to see a little bit more on each side, just give them a little bit more room. I think you have sort of cropped them a little bit more too closely. And also from the top, there's not much information. I would come down and just crop it like this. If it is possible that you don't have capacity or capability of cropping these images, that's okay. But this is how I would have liked to see it. And when it comes to the sides, make sure that you leave room, some breathing room on each side. Okay. And the next one is perfect. This is really, really good. The only thing I can think of is a little bit lower angle for you if you had just gone down a little bit more. But having said that, I think it still works. Maybe even higher angle would have worked even better to show how low she's feeling. So shooting it from a little bit more higher angle would have put her a little bit more lower. Maybe that would have worked too. I think, but both pictures are really good. You want to say anything about it? Let me start with this one.
Yeah, sir, for your feedback, so I would like to say thank you so much, sir. So I'll be very careful in future, like in what you suggested in this picture, like in cropping and from the lower to that one. So thank you so much, sir.
No problem. And this one is perfect because you have gone down. That's what I always want to see. But the only thing is just the sides are a little bit more too tight. And both images storytelling is really good. Very nice job. Okay, next we're going to go to Vipin. Vipin has 4 pictures. So let me first talk about techniques. This gives me a happy feeling. This sort of gives me a sad feeling, but I will let you speak. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So yeah, this one is sort of conflict. This is a dog just adjacent to our house, and he he's chained, and it shows that and he was low, and I was sitting inside my home. So this is through a zoom lens, and I could see that he's not feeling happy. So yeah. This one, nature is always peace, So it shows, whenever we need peace, we want to be in nature, we want to be in water, all these elements like water, all the elements of nature basically, they give us reflection. So, and there is a tree also which doesn't have leaves. So it shows that when you reflect, maybe you are reborn, or sort of these sort of things were going on, or the fallen leaves. So water is life. And again, this one is a peaceful photo. So it seemed to me like these two friends are sitting together and talking or chit-chatting, sort of. So yeah. And this one was, again, it's a monument. So I wanted to, although it looks to be peaceful, but I wanted to show the conflict that these things like these monuments or the heritage is maybe fading away at times. We forget these are past, and these things lose their charm at times. And since this was a sunset photo, so sunset, again, it tells that things are going, but again there will be a new day next day. And similarly, the tree, which again is losing, it doesn't have that much of leaves, so it will regenerate after a while, or things will be back. And I see there are two people sitting on the left bottom. So whenever we want to seek peace, so we go maybe in nature, or to we go to the places which are not crowded. So but I want to show this conflict that people always want to go to nature or to these places, solitude, to seek solitude. But we are the one, again, to we are disrupting the nature, we are creating more of buildings and all those things, which is a sort of conflict, that we are losing our heritage, we are destroying nature in a way, kind of.
Right. That's a great point. And I like all these photos, and technically they're all really good. I don't see anything that needs to be changed. Maybe this one just a little bit more cropping from the top, and maybe come in just a little bit more this way. Rather than that, all four pictures are really good. And I can see the improvement in all your work, everybody, as far as techniques are concerned, how you're beginning to get the concept of how to compose a photograph, and in such a short period of time, how quickly you have learned. And it's all practice from here on that's going to make it even better. So you just keep shooting, keep taking photographs. I'll go back to Uwais and what he's saying. He left a comment for conflict photo. There are armed forces, security forces, stopping people and cars in the middle of the road, causing chaos, and frame dashboard depicts the restrictions, exactly, to shoot openly. You feel confined, right? So for the peace photo, there's a man who's spending time with himself alone, meditating and refreshing his mind and giving rest to his body, yes. So exactly, that's what I thought. Nice job with both photographs, very good. All right. What I'm planning on doing today, since we have just a few minutes left, I'm going to real quick cover a tip, basically, that I use to photograph when it comes to street photography. We did have a discussion last week about the moral and legal issues of street photography. Barring that, whatever those rules are in your own community, because every different community, every different place has different rules when it comes to taking pictures in public. So I'm not going to get into that discussion. I'm going to let you know, like Mohammed, like Mustafa said in the beginning, that he didn't want to get close, and so he was shooting with the zoom lens. Zoom lens is used for taking pictures of conflict. So I just want to give you a couple of ideas here how I do it when it comes to street photography. So the first thing I do is I find a background. I find what is a background that is going to make my subjects stand out. So that's the first thing I do. So I found this wall. I knew there are beautiful colors, and I knew there are a couple of structures, the window here, that makes it even more interesting. And then I found a place, and then I sort of was hiding, not exactly hiding, but away from all that hustle and bustle, so that they don't see me taking pictures, basically. And I just waited. I started clicking for photos. This is just an example. This will apply to anything. Like if you're a photojournalist working for a newspaper, you need to go there before, a few minutes before, and you need to find a right spot, a safe spot where you are yourself safe, and at the same time, you can get photos that you really need. So that's one of the things that you should be doing, is pick a spot, and then let the action happen. Things will keep moving, and you start capturing them without any issues. And I do this both with candid photography and also with formal posed photos also. So I'm going to show you that also pretty soon. Just give me a second. So here I wanted the subject in this frame. So I picked a spot and I waited for my subject to show up. Many people came. I took maybe 10, 15 photos of that, and I finally liked this one. So I took it out, and you can see right here. So she's perfectly framed in the door, and there's a lot of room in front of her, but you can see she's walking. When it comes to posed photography, I do the same thing here also. So I had a subject, she wanted to get photographed in this park. So I walked around and I took picture of my frame first, and then I thought about it and looked at it. So where should I place my subject? So I used the railway track. These are abandoned railway tracks, so they're pretty safe. I thought this curve here, this particular spot makes a good place where I should place my subject. So I did exactly the same. Then I moved in a little bit. You can see. So foreground, there's my subject on rule of thirds. There are railway tracks going in. And since there's nothing in the background, everything is blurred, it's pushing you back towards my subject. So you are basically moving within the frame. And that's what your goal should be as a photographer. Here's one more again. I took a picture of the scene, that's where I want to place my subject. And then I placed my subject exactly what I wanted it to be. So you can practice picking a spot ahead of time, both in candid photos and also in posed photos. It will help you. It will make your job much more easier, and you will get better compositions that way if you keep that in mind. I also created a video for you, which I'm going to send out today. That is about bird photography and an experiment that I had done a couple of years ago. It will help you if you are interested in taking pictures of wildlife. It will help you do that, exactly that. Finally, what we're going to do next week, it will let you know exactly what that will be. But before that happens, we're going to come a full circle when it comes to photography, even this particular program we did with you. So let me just talk about that. One second. So the first thing you should be doing, I think this is what your thought process should be for every single subject, is that you have an assignment. I want you to do a research about that assignment. What is it? For example, For example, if your assignment is to take photographs of drug problem in youth, okay, the first thing you should be doing is read about what the problem is. What drugs are youth taking? What does the taking of those drugs do to the youths themselves and to their families? So you are better equipped with at least the concept of the story before you even pick up your camera. So then the next thing you will be doing is obviously not doing this. Now you have a story somewhere hidden in this particular frame. Your next job is to isolate your subject, isolate your story. So that would be this, okay? And then the third step would be relate that story with something else where people can tell, oh, I connect the two, okay? Something like this. This is just an example. We know that musical instrument, it's the people who play it. So include people in the shot.